Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, surrounded by gentle green hills and rivers that shimmered like ribbons of silver, there lived a king and queen who were loved by all their people. They ruled with kindness and wisdom, and under their care the land prospered. The fields were golden, the gardens bloomed year-round, and the castle, with its tall towers and shining gates, stood proudly beneath the open sky. Yet for all their happiness, the king and queen carried one sorrow deep within their hearts. They had no child. The castle, though grand and bright, felt empty. The laughter of children never echoed through its halls. Every day, the queen would walk through the royal gardens, gazing at the flowers and wishing for a little one of her own. Seasons passed, the first snow melted into spring, and still their wish remained unfulfilled. Then, one morning, as the sun rose behind the eastern mountains, a brilliant star appeared above the castle, glowing brighter than any other. The people saw it and whispered that it was a sign of blessing. And soon, their hopes came true. A baby girl was born to the king and queen, a beautiful child with rosy cheeks and eyes that shone like morning dew. She was named Aurora, the light of dawn. The whole kingdom celebrated her birth. Bells rang from every tower, flowers filled the streets, and joyful songs drifted through the air. People traveled from far and wide to offer gifts to the royal family. In the great hall, candles shimmered, and tables overflowed with sweets and golden fruits. It was a day of happiness and hope. To bless the princess, 12 good fairies came from across the land. They were radiant beings, each carrying a gift of magic, beauty, grace, wisdom, kindness, song, and laughter. As they gathered around the golden cradle, their wings glimmered like petals in sunlight. One by one, they bestowed their blessings, and the air sparkled with gentle light. But as the last fairy approached, the mood changed. A sudden gust of wind swept through the hall. The candles flickered, and the sky outside turned dark. From the shadows, a tall figure appeared. A fairy draped in black, her cloak rippling like smoke. She had not been invited. Her presence filled the room with dread. Without warning, she raised her hand and cast a curse so terrible that everyone froze in fear. She declared that when the princess turned 16, she would prick her finger on a spinning wheel and fall into an endless sleep. Then, as quickly as she had come, the dark fairy vanished, leaving behind only the chill of her curse. The last good fairy, whose gift remained unspoken, stepped forward. Though she could not undo the spell entirely, she softened its cruelty. The princess would not die. She would sleep deeply and peacefully until awakened by true love's kindness. To protect their child, the king and queen ordered every spinning wheel in the kingdom to be destroyed. None were left, and no one was allowed to spin or weave. Still, the memory of the curse lingered like a shadow. Aurora grew surrounded by light, laughter, and love. The fairies who watched over her cared for her like mothers. They taught her to sing with the birds, to dance in the meadows, and to see beauty in all living things. Her golden hair gleamed in the sun, and her eyes sparkled like the morning sky. She was gentle to everyone, from the smallest rabbit in the forest to the grandest noble in the court. Her kindness spread warmth wherever she went. But even the strongest magic cannot forever hide from destiny. On her 16th birthday, as dawn painted the sky with rose and gold, the castle awoke in celebration. The air was filled with music and joy. Yet somewhere beyond the bright halls, the curse waited in silence. That afternoon, while wandering alone, Aurora discovered a narrow staircase she had never noticed before. It wound upward, cold and dusty, to an old tower long forgotten. At the top stood a wooden door slightly open. Inside, the air shimmered faintly. In the center of the room was an old spinning wheel covered with cobwebs. The wheel turned slowly, glowing faintly in the dim light. Drawn by curiosity, Aurora stepped closer. Her hand reached out, and with the lightest touch, the curse fulfilled its promise. A drop of blood glimmered on her finger. She swayed, then fell softly to the floor. Her long lashes fluttered closed. The fairies found her moments later. Sorrow filled their hearts. They lifted her gently and laid her upon a golden bed, surrounding her with roses and soft light. Then, with tears in their eyes, they cast a spell of sleep across the castle so that none within its walls would suffer the grief of loss. The king, the queen, the servants, even the animals, all fell into deep slumber. Over time, vines grew thick and wild around the castle walls, weaving a shield of thorns that reached the sky. The world beyond moved on, and the tale of the sleeping princess became a legend whispered by travelers. Years turned into decades, decades into 100 years. The forest grew dense and untamed. Birds made nests upon the towers, and the winds carried songs of mystery through the leaves. Inside the castle, time stood still. The candles never melted, the air never changed. Aurora slept as peacefully as she had on that first night, her face serene, her hands folded over a single rose. Then one day, far beyond the forest, a young prince heard the old tale. He was a wanderer of heart, drawn to stories of lost magic and forgotten dreams. Guided by the whispers of fate, he set out in search of the castle hidden among the thorns. Through days of journey, he rode past rivers and valleys, through mists and fading sunlight, until at last he stood before the forest of roses. The vines were thick, their thorns gleaming like silver in the twilight. But as he stepped forward, the thorns shifted and parted, revealing a narrow path. The forest seemed alive, guiding him, welcoming him. He walked for what felt like hours until he reached the castle gates. Everything was silent. The courtyard lay still beneath layers of moss and thyme. Birds perched motionless on marble statues. The air was heavy with enchantment. Slowly, he crossed the threshold and entered the great hall. Cobwebs hung like curtains of silk, and beams of light streamed through broken windows, catching dust that glimmered like tiny stars. Everywhere he looked, people slept. Guards frozen at their posts, musicians with instruments in hand, servants midway through their duties. It was as though the world had stopped breathing. Yet the deeper he went, the lighter the air became, as if the castle itself waited for something long overdue. Finally, he came to a golden door carved with roses. Beyond it lay the princess, still and radiant, her beauty untouched by time. Her hair spilled like gold across the pillow, and her face glowed softly in the quiet light. The air around her shimmered with faint magic, and the room seemed to hum with gentle energy, the breath of a dream that had never ended. The prince knelt beside her, overcome with awe. In that moment, the curse that had bound the castle began to tremble. The still air stirred. The roses outside began to bloom. Sunlight pierced through the clouds, touching the highest tower. The magic that had slept for 100 years began to wake. And then, as softly as the morning breaks through the night, Aurora stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and she drew her first breath of life after a century of dreams. The spell was broken. All through the castle, life returned. Bells that had been silent for generations rang again. The courtyards filled with birdsong. The people awoke, blinking in wonder at how time had passed. The king and queen, waking from their long slumber, rushed to see their daughter, tears of joy filling their eyes. The fairies danced with laughter, their wings shimmering brighter than ever before. The vines that once imprisoned the castle now burst into flowers, white and pink, stretching toward the sun. Aurora rose, calm and graceful, as though the 100 years had been but a single night. The world felt new again, bathed in the golden light of morning. The castle echoed with joy, and the people of the land rejoiced. Songs were sung, and the legend of the sleeping princess spread far and wide. From that day forward, peace returned to the kingdom. The fields grew rich again, the rivers sparkled, and the hearts of the people were filled with gratitude. They remembered the long sleep not as a curse, but as a reminder that even when darkness falls and dreams seem endless, love and kindness will always find a way to awaken the light. As twilight settled over the land, the castle glowed warmly against the night sky. The stars appeared one by one, twinkling like gentle promises. The wind carried the soft fragrance of roses through the air, and beneath the quiet sky, the world rested in harmony once more, peaceful, bright, and awake. And so, the story of Sleeping Beauty was passed down through generations, a tale of time, patience, and the enduring magic of love that never fades, no matter how long the dream